December is coming. The only question is, who will you be when it arrives? There is one truth that most people would rather avoid. Time negotiates with no one. While some spend hours waiting for Monday next month, their next paycheck, or the perfect burst of motivation, the calendar continues to move forward in silence. Every sunrise takes away another day that could have been used to build a different future. December will not ask whether you were ready. It will simply arrive. And when that day finally stands before you, only one question will truly matter. Who will be looking back at you in the mirror? The same person who began the year full of promises, or someone completely transformed? Now imagine two different futures unfolding at the same time. In the first, you spend the next 6 months exactly the way you spent the last 6. You wake up without a clear direction, postpone small decisions, promise yourself you'll start tomorrow, allow procrastination to win once again. And when December finally arrives, you are met with that familiar emptiness, the feeling that time passed far too quickly, that you worked, rested, solved problems, yet deep down remained exactly where you started. It is the kind of quiet pain that does not appear overnight. It builds little by little until it becomes the regret of another year wasted. But there is a second future. In that one, December arrives as well. The difference is that the person welcoming that new month is no longer the same. Your body responds differently because you learned how to take care of it. Your mind is more organized because you trained yourself to be disciplined every single day. Your posture reflects confidence because you no longer depend on other people's approval. Your habits transformed your daily routine. Your routine reshaped your identity, and your new identity began opening doors that once seemed completely out of reach. The people around you notice that something is different. They may not even be able to explain exactly what changed. They simply recognize that you have become stronger, more confident, and far better prepared for whatever life brings. That is exactly what this message is about. It is not about miracle formulas, impossible challenges, or empty promises of overnight transformation. What you are about to discover is a plan built on one simple truth. 6 months is enough time to transform virtually any area of your life when you have a clear direction, daily consistency, and the discipline to keep going even on the days when motivation disappears. Every step of this plan has been designed for something far greater than simply achieving goals. Its purpose is to rebuild the person who makes decisions every single day. Because when your identity changes, your results stop being the product of temporary effort and become a natural consequence of who you are. And it all begins long before the first major victory. It begins with the way you choose to approach the next 180 days. Stop trying to change your life. Start by changing your identity. Most people do not fail because they lack goals. They fail because they try to build a new life while carrying the same old identity. They buy a planner, download a productivity app, save videos about organization, promise themselves they will wake up earlier, yet they still see themselves as disorganized. As long as that internal self-image remains unchanged, every external effort becomes nothing more than a temporary attempt. A person who believes they are messy will always find a way to return to disorder. A person who believes they are weak will always find an excuse to give up. And someone who sees themselves as a person who never finishes what they start eventually turns that belief into a way of life. That is why, before asking, "What do I need to do?" there is a far more powerful question to ask. Who do I need to become? That single question changes everything. When you begin with your identity, your actions stop being isolated tasks and become daily evidence of the person you are choosing to become. You do not wake up early simply because it is written in your schedule. You wake up early because you are becoming someone who honors their own commitments. You do not organize your home merely because someone told you it was important. You do it because you are becoming a person who refuses to let external chaos fuel internal chaos. If you want to lose weight, it is not enough to keep telling yourself that you need to shed a few pounds. Start thinking the way a healthy person would think. Ask yourself, does this choice bring my body closer to or farther away from the life I want to live? If you want to build wealth, simply wishing for more money is not enough. Begin acting like someone who is financially responsible. Someone who monitors their spending, respects what they earn, learns before making financial decisions, and understands that financial freedom is built through countless small, consistent choices. If you want discipline, do not wait until you feel motivated. A disciplined person makes the decision first and spends less time negotiating with themselves afterward. They do not depend on excitement because they understand that motivation is only a visitor, while identity is where they truly live. So the first real exercise in this plan begins here. Write in detail who this new version of yourself will be 180 days from now. Do not settle for writing beautiful or inspiring statements. Describe how this person wakes up, how they dress, how they speak to themselves, how they care for their body, how they organize their surroundings, how they work, how they rest, and how they behave when no one else is watching. Describe their appearance, their posture, their daily habits, their thoughts, their attitudes, and even the boundaries they refuse to cross anymore. Because before you can become that person, you must first be able to see them clearly. And once that vision becomes vivid, your next step is no longer just another goal. It becomes a daily decision to leave behind everything that no longer aligns with the person you are becoming. The first 30 days, eliminate what is stealing your life. There is one mistake that causes many people to give up before they even begin, trying to build a new life without first removing what is destroying the old one. It is like trying to plant a tree in soil covered with debris. You buy books, set goals, create schedules, and promise yourself new habits, yet you continue feeding the very behaviors that drain your energy every single day. The truth is simple. Before you add anything, you must eliminate what no longer serves you. Before you move forward, you must lighten the weight you have been carrying. The first 30 days of this plan are not about doing more. They are about stopping the waste of what you already have. To discover where your life is slipping away, do something very few people have the courage to do. Observe your daily routine without trying to justify it. For several days, write down everything that occupies your time. How much time do you spend on your phone? How many times do you open social media without any real purpose? How many minutes disappear in front of the television? How many conversations revolve around complaints? How much of your energy is consumed by discouraging environments, people who only criticize, or thoughts that constantly expect the worst? This exercise is not meant to make you feel guilty. It is meant to reveal reality, because no one can change what they continue to ignore. Once you clearly see where your time is going, you begin to realize that small changes can produce extraordinary results. Imagine reclaiming just 1 hour each day that was previously lost to social media. Over the course of 30 days, that becomes more than 30 hours available to study, exercise, read, organize your home, learn a new skill, or simply enjoy intentional, restorative rest. Imagine replacing your final hour of screen time each night with a full night's quality sleep. Imagine exchanging content that fuels comparison for content that educates, inspires, and helps you grow. None of these changes seems revolutionary on its own, but when repeated every day, they quietly begin rebuilding your life before you even realize it. That is why eliminating bad habits means far more than simply giving up negative behaviors. It means creating space for a new version of yourself to emerge. Where distraction once existed, focus begins to grow. Where there was an overload of information, clarity takes its place. Where constant exhaustion once dominated, renewed energy begins to appear. Positive habits cannot thrive in an environment overwhelmed by noise and distraction. They need room to take root. And as you begin clearing that ground, you realize that real change depends not only on what you choose to do, but also on having the courage to let go of everything that no longer deserves a place in your life. Days 30 to 60. Build a routine that works even on the hardest days. There is a myth that keeps many people trapped in an endless cycle of excitement and disappointment. The belief that motivation is the fuel for lasting change. It is not. Motivation is unpredictable. Some days it arrives with incredible strength. On others, it disappears entirely. Those who rely on it are constantly moving forward only to fall back again. Disciplined people understand something different. They do not wait until they feel like taking action. Instead, they build a routine so clear and consistent that they keep going, even when their enthusiasm fades. Not because they possess extraordinary willpower, but because they have reduced the number of decisions they need to make each day. When your routine is already established, taking action becomes almost automatic. This is where the second phase of the 180-day plan begins. Instead of creating an unrealistic schedule that cannot be sustained, you will build a routine that is simple, practical, and repeatable. Choose a consistent time to wake up each morning. It does not have to be 5 a.m. if that does not fit your lifestyle, but it does need to be a time you can consistently honor. Make your bed, organize the space where you will spend most of your day, and identify your 3 most important priorities before checking messages or opening social media. Set aside time to move your body, another block of time to learn something new, and establish a consistent bedtime so you can end each day with quality rest. It all sounds remarkably simple, and that is precisely why it works. Extraordinary lives are usually built through the repeated practice of ordinary actions. Do not fall into the trap of believing that something is only worth doing if you can do it perfectly. A small habit practiced every day is far more valuable than a grand effort made only once in a while. Read just 10 pages of a good book. Take a 20-minute walk around your neighborhood. Before you begin working, organize your desk to eliminate distractions. Lay out the clothes you plan to wear the next day before going to bed. Fill your water bottle. Prepare your breakfast in advance. Individually, these actions may seem insignificant. Together, however, they create a powerful effect. They reduce the friction between intention and action. The fewer obstacles standing between you and a positive habit, the more likely that habit is to become part of your identity. As the weeks pass, you will begin to notice something far more meaningful than visible results. Every small promise you keep strengthens the trust you have in yourself. You stop being the person who always starts but never finishes, and become someone who keeps their own word. That growing sense of consistent progress becomes one of the greatest sources of discipline because it proves, day after day, that you are capable of moving forward. And as that confidence continues to grow, you will naturally begin believing that you are ready for greater challenges. After all, those who learn to win the small battles of everyday life eventually discover that they are prepared to take on far more significant transformations. Days 60 to 90. Do what most people are afraid to do. By this point, you have cleared the ground and built a solid routine. But there comes a stage where almost everyone stops growing. They organize their lives, develop better habits, make some progress, and then begin avoiding everything that makes them uncomfortable. That is exactly where growth begins to slow down. The truth is that the life you want is almost always waiting on the other side of something you have been avoiding. It may be the conversation you have postponed for months, the decision that feels too difficult to make, the project that still exists only on paper, or the workout that demands more than you feel willing to give. Discomfort is not an obstacle on the path to transformation. It is the path itself. That is why, beginning on day 60, this plan introduces one simple yet incredibly powerful rule. Every day, Do the task you most want to avoid first. Before distractions, before the small tasks that create a false sense of productivity, face the one thing that will truly move your life forward. If there is an important subject you need to study, begin with it. If you have a difficult phone call to make it first thing in the morning. If the workout feels overwhelming, lace up your shoes and go anyway. If there is a project waiting for your initiative, take the first step before doubt has the chance to convince you to quit. When you conquer the hardest task of the day first, everything else becomes significantly easier. There is a reason this approach works so well. Just as muscles grow stronger by resisting greater weight, your mind becomes stronger when it learns to face discomfort intentionally. Every time you choose to do something difficult, you send a powerful message to your brain. I no longer run away from what needs to be done. Gradually, what once felt intimidating begins to feel normal. Fear loses its grip. Self-doubt begins to fade. Procrastination no longer controls your decisions. You realize that carrying the burden of avoidance was far more exhausting than actually confronting the situation itself. Perhaps the greatest lesson of this stage is discovering that courage has never been a prerequisite for taking action. Many people believe they must first feel ready, confident, or fearless before they can begin. But reality works in exactly the opposite way. Courage rarely comes before action. It is born while you are taking action. It appears when you take the first step with trembling hands, when you keep moving despite your fear, and when you choose not to turn back. Every challenge you face expands the person you are becoming, and after living this way for several months, you will realize that your choices are no longer determined by discomfort. They are guided by the vision of the life you have chosen to build. Days 90 to 120. Turn your mind into your greatest ally. After 3 months of consistent change, many people believe the hardest part is behind them. But there is one battle that continues every single day, often in complete silence. It does not take place at the gym, at work, or inside your home. It takes place within your mind. That is where the decisions are made that either move you closer to or farther away from the life you want to build. Before you abandon a habit, you have already given up on it mentally. Before you persevere, your mind has already found a reason to keep going. The way you speak to yourself largely determines the direction your days will take. That is why learning to strengthen your mind gives you an advantage that no circumstance can ever take away. This is the stage of the plan where you stop focusing solely on your routine and begin intentionally caring for the quality of your thoughts. Set aside a few minutes each day to nourish your mind with valuable ideas through reading. Keep a journal where you record everything that has improved since the beginning of this journey, including small victories, challenges you have overcome, and lessons you have learned. Review your goals regularly to remind yourself why you started and where you are headed. Practice intentional affirmations, not as magical phrases, but as reminders of the identity you are building. I keep my word. I finish what I start. I am capable of facing challenges. Most importantly, create moments of silence. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and your own thoughts. Many of the answers you are searching for do not need to be found outside yourself. They begin to emerge when the noise fades away. As you observe your mind more closely, you will begin to notice an interesting pattern. Whenever a challenge appears, certain thoughts immediately try to convince you that it is too difficult, that it may not be worth the effort, or that you simply are not meant for it. Those thoughts do not have to control your actions. Instead of asking, why can't I ever stick to a routine? Try asking, what is the very next step I can take right now? Instead of thinking, I ruined everything, replace it with, what can I learn from this? Instead of repeating, I'm not good enough, ask yourself, what skills or qualities do I need to develop to become better? Small changes in the questions you ask yourself can lead to profound changes in the answers your mind provides. Over time, you will realize that a strong mind is never built by accident. It is trained. Just as the body becomes stronger through repeated exercise, your thoughts can also be disciplined and strengthened. Mentally strong people are not those who never experience fear, doubt, or difficult days. They have simply learned not to believe every thought that crosses their minds. They consciously choose which thoughts deserve their attention and which ones should be left behind. And once this ability becomes part of your life, you will discover that no lasting transformation ever happens only on the outside. It always begins within the mind, because that is where the strength is born to sustain everything you have built so far, and everything that is still to come. Days 120 to 150. Take care of the image you project to yourself. There is one detail that many people overlook because it seems superficial, yet it profoundly influences the way they live, how they present themselves to themselves. Many believe that taking care of their appearance is merely a matter of vanity or pleasing the people around them. In reality, it is far more than that. It is a silent message sent to your own brain every single day. When you wake up and decide that taking care of yourself is not worth the effort because no one will see you, you are communicating, often without realizing it, that your own presence is not worthy of attention. But when you intentionally choose how you present yourself to the world, even if you spend the entire day alone, you reinforce the identity of someone who values their own life. That is why this stage of the plan does not call for dramatic or extravagant changes. It calls for respect for the little things. Make your bed before beginning your day. Open the windows and let the sunlight in. Organize the space where you work or study. Take your time while getting ready. Maintain good personal hygiene. Comb your hair and choose clean, well-kept clothes, even if they are simple. Stand tall, keep your shoulders back, and speak to yourself with the same respect you would show someone you deeply admire. These actions may seem small, but they transform both your physical posture and your mental state. You stop drifting through the day on autopilot and begin showing up in your own life with greater presence, confidence, and intention. This is why so many people who work from home notice a remarkable increase in productivity after giving up the habit of spending the entire day in pajamas or whatever clothes happen to be nearby. Professionals across many industries report that when they dress as though they are preparing for an important meeting, their concentration improves, their creativity flows more naturally, and their commitment to their work becomes stronger. It is not the clothing that accomplishes the work. It is the shift in mindset that the clothing creates. When you prepare yourself for the day, you send a clear message to your brain that your time has value, that your responsibilities matter, and that you are ready to take initiative rather than simply react to whatever happens around you. Ultimately, everything comes back to the central principle of this entire plan: identity. When you begin treating your own presence with respect, your mind starts recognizing that behavior as a priority. You stop living like someone who is merely waiting for life to happen and begin living like someone who believes every single day is worth making the most of. Gradually, that mindset becomes visible in the way you speak, work, make decisions, face challenges, and interact with others. After all, the most important image you project is not the one other people see when they cross your path. It is the one you create for yourself every morning when you look in the mirror. And once that image finally begins to change, something even more profound starts to transform. The way you see your own potential as you enter the final 30 days of this journey. Days 150 to 170. Stop living on autopilot. There is a quiet danger that follows almost everyone. Confusing movement with progress. People wake up, go to work, answer messages, solve problems, come home, watch something, go to bed, and then repeat the exact same routine the next day. The days become so similar that the months slip away without leaving any meaningful memories behind. Before they realize it, entire years have been lived on autopilot, not because they lacked effort, but because they lacked awareness. They stayed busy every moment of the day, yet rarely stopped to ask whether their routine was actually leading them toward the life they wanted to build. That is why, during this stage of the plan, you need to develop a habit that seems simple but has the power to transform your life, conducting a weekly review of your own journey. Set aside a specific time on the same day each week to honestly reflect on the days that have passed. Ask yourself, what improved since last week? In what moments did I stay true to the identity I'm building? What slipped backward? Where did I allow old habits to regain ground? Most importantly, what needs to be corrected immediately before a small deviation turns into a major setback? These questions keep you from continuing down the wrong path simply because you have already invested time in traveling it. People who achieve extraordinary results are not those who never make mistakes. They make mistakes, evaluate them, make adjustments, and keep moving forward. An entrepreneur reviews the numbers and changes strategy when something is not working. An athlete modifies their training after identifying a weakness. A pilot does not wait until the airplane is completely off course before making corrections. Small adjustments are made throughout the entire flight. Life works the same way. Those who continue repeating a strategy that clearly is not producing results only extend their own frustration. Those who are willing to adjust their direction whenever necessary transform every mistake into a lesson and every lesson into growth. This is one of the greatest differences between those who merely dream and those who truly change their lives. Transformation does not happen simply because time passes or because motivation suddenly appears. It happens because someone has the humility to recognize what needs to change and the courage to take action before it is too late. Every small adjustment strengthens the path you have been building since the very first day of this plan. And when you learn to live with intention, you stop being a passenger in your own story and take control of its direction. After all, the final days of this journey will not be defined only by how far you have traveled, but by the person you have become with every step along the way. The final 10 days. Prove to yourself that you have changed. When the finish line begins to come into view, something interesting often happens. Many people relax. They convince themselves that the hardest part is over, ease up on their efforts, let a few habits slip away, and begin negotiating with themselves once again. It is precisely at this stage that old versions of themselves try to regain control. After nearly 6 months of consistency, the temptation to believe that one day won't make a difference returns. But it does make a difference. The final 10 days are not meant for taking a break from transformation. They are meant to solidify it. This is the stage where you stop trying to prove to others that you have changed and begin proving it to yourself. Now is the time to look back with complete honesty. Take a photo from your first day and compare it to the person standing in the mirror today. Notice your posture, your facial expression, and the confidence in your eyes. Compare your daily routine, your schedule, your level of organization, your eating habits, your physical energy, your productivity, and the way you respond to challenges. Think about the situations that once caused you to give up and pay attention to how you handle them now. Listen to your thoughts. Does that voice that constantly whispered, "I can't do this," still have the same power, or has it been replaced by the confidence built through hundreds of small, consistent decisions? When you compare where you started with where you are today, you realize that the greatest transformation is rarely just physical. It is reflected in the way you live your life. At this point, you may discover that your greatest achievement was not losing weight, earning more money, organizing your home, or successfully following a routine. All of those accomplishments matter, but there is something even more valuable. For the first time in a long time, you can look at yourself and say, "I did what I promised myself I would do." Those words may seem simple, but they carry tremendous weight. For years, You may have accumulated broken promises, abandoned fresh starts, and unfinished goals. Now your story tells something entirely different. You are no longer someone who simply dreamed about transformation. You became someone who possessed the discipline to build it, one day at a time. This is where genuine self-confidence is born. Not the kind that depends on compliments, social media likes, or the approval of other people, but the kind that remains even when no one is watching. The strongest confidence is never handed to you. It is built every time you keep your word, face what must be faced, and continue moving forward even on the hardest days. When your actions consistently reinforce what you tell yourself, you develop a sense of confidence that no outside opinion can ever take away. And perhaps that is the greatest reward of these 180 days, discovering that the person you can trust the most has finally become yourself. Yet this realization does not mark the end of the journey. It marks the beginning of a life where personal growth is no longer a temporary challenge. It becomes part of who you are. December will not reward those who only dreamed. It will reward those who took action. We have reached the end of this plan, but perhaps the beginning of the most important decision of your life. There is one thing December will never do: reward good intentions alone. No one wakes up in the final month of the year, looks in the mirror, and suddenly discovers a completely different version of themselves by chance. Lasting transformation never happens overnight. It is built quietly. It begins when no one is applauding, when no one notices the effort, when you choose to get out of bed even when you do not feel like it. Follow your routine even without motivation, and keep moving forward even when you cannot yet see the results. The world usually notices only the visible transformation, but those who lived through the process know that it began months earlier, through hundreds of small decisions that seemed insignificant at the moment they were made. Remember the image we created at the beginning of this journey. Two futures were waiting for you. They still are. In one of them, December arrives as it always has, bringing the familiar feeling that another year passed far too quickly, filled with postponed promises, abandoned plans, and the painful thought, next year will be different. In the other future, December arrives as well. But this time, it is welcomed by someone who chose to act while there was still time, someone who did not wait for the perfect Monday, the perfect month, or constant motivation. Someone who realized that time was never working against them. The real challenge was always deciding what to do with each day they were given. The difference between those two futures was never luck, talent, or opportunity. It was the daily choice between remaining the same or continuing to grow. That is why the 180-day plan was never just about 6 months. It has always been about building a new identity. Throughout this journey, you learned that results do not change people. Changed people create different results. When your identity changes, your decisions begin to reflect that transformation. Your habits no longer depend on your mood. Your daily routine begins working in your favor. Your mind learns to support you instead of sabotaging you. Your posture communicates confidence before you even speak a single word. And little by little, the life that once felt so distant begins to become the natural consequence of the person you have chosen to become. That is what real transformation looks like, the kind that remains long after the challenge is over, because it has become part of who you are. If this message has awakened something within you, turn this moment into a commitment. Write this in the comments right now. Today is my day one. That simple sentence could become the first step toward a decision that changes the next 6 months of your life. Save this video and return to it whenever you feel like giving up. Let it serve as a reminder of the person you have chosen to become, and use it to measure your growth over the next 180 days. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this before another year slips away unchanged, share this video with them. Be sure to like the video to support the channel and subscribe to continue this journey of growth, discipline, and transformation with us, one day at a time. Because December is coming, and the best decision you can make today is to ensure that when it arrives, it meets a version of you that may seem impossible right now, but one that begins to take shape with the choice you make today.